Hello. How do Trump's tariffs affect the UK? In my opinion, they don't, or there's very small impact to be honest. However, on the media, on the mainstream media, you'd have thought that this is the end of the world for the UK. It's going to have huge impacts. But I think there's some really real glaring issues that people are overlooking. And in this video, I just want to go through them. So Trump has rolled out his tariffs onto the world with 10% levied on products imported from the UK and a 25% tariff on cars manufactured here. In my opinion, the tariffs are unlikely to have any significant impact on sales of products manufactured in the UK, with rare exceptions. The reality is that everything the UK makes that could be manufactured elsewhere, it's already gone. It's already disappeared. The UK industry has been shattered over the last few decades by globalization and competition from foreign countries. In these countries, labor is cheap, less regulations, and it means that products can be made at a cheaper cost for the consumer. And in the UK, you just can't compete. So all these businesses, most of the manufacturing business is already gone. The remaining businesses manufacturing in the UK, they're producing goods that are specialist and they cannot be made elsewhere, either due to their complexity and intellectual property restrictions, perhaps, or because their value is inherent to its manufacture in the UK. Furthermore, the majority of exports to the US from the UK are services, which are unaffected by tariffs. In fact, of the £182.6 billion of exports to the US from the UK in 2024, services made up £124.4 billion, whilst goods represented £58.1 billion. Of those goods, the top five categories from 2024 are cars at £8.3 billion, medicinal and pharmaceutical products at £7.2 billion, mechanical power generators at £5.2 billion, scientific instruments at £2.4 billion, aircraft £2.2 billion. So the reality is actually services which aren't affected by tariffs. Remember, they make up the most trade between the UK and the US, and of the goods of the actual goods that are manufactured, most of them are very high tech, very specialized. Aircraft parts, generators, medical, scientific instruments, these are all protected by intellectual property rights and are the specialist products, and they can only be manufactured in the UK. This means they'll always have a demand in the US markets. It doesn't matter if they're 10% more expensive. People and companies do not have alternatives, and they will continue to pay. Regarding the automotive industry, however, and the looming 25% tariffs, which is more than the 10% else on other products from the UK. What are the main brands manufactured in the UK for the US? Let's just think about it. Right. So we've got Bentley, Aston Martin, Rolls Royce, McLaren, Jaguar Land Rover. Although at the moment, of course, Jaguar, after their rebrand, they're at the moment not producing a car. So maybe that's a bad example. But the reality is that American purchasing one of these luxury cars, they're not looking at the price tag when they buy it. You got to think of consumer psychology here, right? If you're going out and buying a McLaren, they're not thinking like someone going out and buying a loaf of bread or weighing up whether to get the shop own brand of ketchup versus the actual ketchup itself, the actual branded one. Like you're saying, oh yeah, you know what, I want to buy this McLaren, and I don't care what it costs, I just want to buy it. Money doesn't work the same when you're able to afford these luxury vehicles. They're buying the cars for their status, and actually, the cars being more expensive will only increase their attractiveness and increase the prestige and status that comes with them. Got to think of this. Someone go, and think of an American, you're a rich American driving around saying, like, look at me, I'm so wealthy, I can afford to spend an extra 100,000 or so just to buy a car imported from the UK, just to waste that money on the tariffs. However, one initially seemingly concerning impact is with whiskey production, which brings in nearly £1 billion in Scotland's economy each year. The industry has been hit with tariffs before. There was a 25% levy on single malts implemented during Trump's previous presidency back in 2019. The Scottish Whisky Association estimated that over 18 months the tariffs were in place, the industry lost £600 million in sales, which does seem like a big impact. But then we learn that distilleries in Scotland were sharing the cost of the tariffs. This is back in 2019 with American importers to make sure that prices on the shelves didn't change for American consumers. And I mean, the simple solution here is sell and advertise the product as a premium drink. There are many whiskey producers in the US. A lot sell at a cheaper price because they produce in the US. However, Americans are still buying Scottish whiskey. Why are they doing that? It's for the status. It's because it tastes nice. It's to share in the Highlands, the heritage of the Highlands, and they want a superior drink. They're not. They will pay higher prices. They're not going to stop buying, paying that price. It's already a a considered luxury good. Scottish distillers should not be afraid to let American consumers shoulder the cost. This could be an opportunity to upmarket and promote Scotch whiskey in the States. Another example chucked around on the news has been about fishing and Scottish salmon. Do you think there's a fishing in America? We give Alaska and the coastlines all over America. It's not someone in a shop is buying Scottish salmon to put on their plate at home to eat in the evening. Like that's you go to a restaurant, so a particular restaurant importing Scottish salmon, and the American going there and going, oh, actually, well, that's like a bit extra, a bit of luxury Scottish salmon. They're going to still be paying the higher cost, and this really just comes down to it: is that actually the UK manufacturing industry is specialized. All the products that are non-unique are already being manufactured elsewhere in the world. Those industries have already left and died a long time ago. Everything the UK produces and exports to the US will continue to be bought by American companies and consumers. But you know what? What do I know? I'm just a guy on YouTube. I'm not an economist. I'm not a business owner. Um, but I'm an individual. Just trying to think. Actually, what is the consumer psychology here? What is the likely impact? And I also want to raise this because it seems like no one else is making this point as well, which means I'm an absolute idiot. Or, however, I do think I mean, it's an absolute idiot. However, I do think I'm thinking about this in a slightly different way that I think most people want. And I think they're missing a trick here. And there's also another position here, which I think is important to note that one business owner that was interviewed by the BBC highlighted that Labour's new increased national insurance contributions are due to come into effect on the 6th of April this year, 2025. It will hurt her business far more than the US tariffs will. And, as companies will struggle, we must not let the Labour government use the excuse of Trump's tariffs and American tariffs as a scapegoat to cover up for their own policy failures, to cover up the fact that businesses will struggle, they will fail. They already have. It took thousands of businesses have already closed since Labour took over. And we mustn't let Labour be able to scapegoat Trump's tariffs. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheerio.